Hail and well met, everybody. Welcome to Geek, Thyself, a show by nerds, for nerds,
who love geeking out over random facts and esoteric trivia. My name is Heather.
I'm Russell.
And we'll be your hosts for this journey through the wondrous land of information.
Hi everyone, welcome to Geek Thyself. We're doing it again, and it's not just me now.
Hi, we're both here this week. Yay!
It's been like a month. It's been more than a month. It's been so long.
I know. For you guys, it doesn't seem like that long since we got together and recorded an episode. But because of our crazy schedules, for me and Russ, it's been like more than a month that we've gotten to sit down and record together. So we're both very excited today.
Yes,
prepare for tangents. There are tangents incoming,
yes.
I'm positive, because it always happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have been on call for like half an hour already.
Yeah, we just started
longer.
Recording.
Yeah, so we've been catching up. We've been doing all that kind of thing. It's 2020 now.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. This is a new decade.
Yeah.
We haven't recorded in a decade.
Technically, yeah, because we are just now recording in this decade. That is true.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of this decade, what's our topic for today?
Oh, what is our topic for today? It is, we are... how do I... Okay, see, I was having this problem about what do we call this episode. We are looking at films that when they came out were set in the future, but are now set in the past. And we're basically going to look at their predictions on how things were and make fun of them, basically.
Yeah, for the most part, that's a pretty good... that's accurate. You know, I mean... There's always movies that are looking to the future and predicting what's going to happen. I think one of the examples that most people are probably the most familiar with is, because it's such a big movie, Back to the Future 2. When he goes to the future and sees
2015.
It's set in 2015, and he sees his son, and there's all these predictions about what are going to happen with the hoverboards and the Nikes that self-tie themselves with the pump button, and you know, the old school diners. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see them. I don't know why I'm doing air quotes, but the old school diners that are set in like an 80s type of vibe, kind of like what we have nowadays with like the 1950s diners. Yeah, with the 50s and 60s type diners. You know, all these predictions that didn't happen.
A couple of them did though. Basically, that was kind of the one that we started looking at the most and thought, how many movies are there like this? And there's a bit more than you'd expect. A few of them...
A huge list, in fact.
Yeah, although, to be fair, that big list is all kind of media, which is fun, but we have to limit it somehow, otherwise we'll be here forever.
Yeah. And we already go on tangents and have our episodes run over the half-hour mark, so we're not going to do that today. We're going to focus on specifically movies. For anyone who is curious and does want to look at the full list, Wikipedia actually has a list of stories set in a future which is now past. So you can Google it and look up the whole list yourselves to see everything. But they cover film, media, that's the same thing. They cover film, they cover manga, they cover anime, they cover cartoon series, TV series, you know...
video games.
Video games, board games. They have Cyberpunk 2020 on there, which is a tabletop RPG. And,
they've got books. Basically, if there's any kind of media... Oh, there's also some audio things there as well. Basically, if it's a type of media that you can consume, it's probably on that list. And it is regularly updated from the look of it, because there are obviously films that are set in 2019 and it's now 2020. That's a big pile of the lists, because it's technically... But it also doesn't account for the films that are just set at present day, so it's not overloaded with things that don't necessarily count. It's basically films that are specifically set in a year which is now past, not just films that didn't get a specific year. You know what I mean. At least I hope.
And some of these movies we aren't technically counting as being set in the future, because, you know, something released in 2018 that's set 2 years ahead that's not the same. You're 2 years away. You kind of have an idea of what the future holds. We're talking about the movies, like, for example, a couple of the ones that I plan on mentioning, because I've actually seen these, because I've seen a lot of old, bad 90s and 80s movies, are from the 90s and 80s, and they're set in the 2000s, and they were predicting all kinds of craziness.
Like, probably our first one, we should probably talk about a bit more, as we mentioned it already, is probably Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about it already. So they predicted wildly outlandish clothing.
Yes.
Which, that didn't happen.
Nope.
Luckily.
Oh,
although...
the 19th installment of Jaws.
There's 19 of them?
Yeah, well, because I'm looking at the listing. So, in Back to the Future 2, the film came out in 1989.
Oh, right. I was so confused. I genuinely thought you meant there were 19 Jaws.
Oh, God, that'd be insane. No,
I'm with you now.
Back to the Future 2 came out in 1989. It's set in 2015. Yes. The future part is set in 2015. And for anyone who's seen the movie, you probably remember the scene where Marty McFly is walking around. He's very confused. What the heck's going on? And all of a sudden, this giant, like, hologram of a shark comes down and, like, tries to take a bite out of him. And it's announcing the Jaws movies. And in that scene, it's not always super easy to catch, depending on how quick you can read. But basically, it's talking about, like, the Jaws 19.
Isn't it like in 5D or something?
Something crazy like that, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, now that I've actually caught up on what we're doing. Okay. Although, aside we're not into super ridiculous clothes, like, do you remember, like, a couple of years ago when they had see-through jeans?
Yes. Actually, one of the YouTubers I like to watch, Sophia Nygaard.
I watched the same video.
I love her. She's very honest, and her videos are entertaining without being stupid.
Yes.
So I enjoy them.
No.
She one of the videos series that she has done, and for anyone who's interested in this kind of thing, it's a fun series to watch. She's done a lot of, like, weird or ugly clothing series. Mm-hmm. So, like, she's done weird shoes, weird pants. She wore a jacket that had sleeves that were, like, 5 feet long.
Yeah, I remember
on each
that
arm
one.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there are crazy clothes out there, and I mean, anyone who's ever seen, like, an awards show,
that's
or
true.
a music video that's really crazy or anything like that, there are crazy looking clothes that exist, but
they're not commonplace. Yeah.
Right. Well, and some of the crazy things that Back to the Future 2 predicted still don't exist, like the self-lacing Nike shoes where you pump a button and they tie themselves.
Actually...
Wait, did they make those? Did I forget that they made those?
They actually did, because there's an episode of The Late Show with Michael J. Fox who tries on a prototype pair of them.
Oh.
In 2015.
I
don't know whether... they didn't sell many, but they technically exist.
It's probably a collector's item thing. So I don't care about collector's shoes, so I didn't pay attention.
Yeah. No, neither do I. But it technically does exist. They're not widespread mass market.
Right,
but
which is what they predicted.
Exist.
Yeah.
Yes,
and another thing that was predicted with the clothing was, like, the self-drying clothing, which we don't have, unfortunately. We do have quick-dry clothing, like workout clothes, some of them.
Self-dry clothing would be so good.
Oh, God, after a rainy day, it'd be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I live in the UK. Every day's a rainy day. Every day's a rainy day.
That's true. Yeah. So those are some of the crazy things they predicted with that movie. But it's
there's also
such a
the
big
hoverboard.
movie. Yes. Oh, the hoverboard.
Yeah.
How can I forget the hoverboard?
Yeah, we don't have a working hoverboard, unfortunately. It's still not a thing.
No.
Did they have flying cars as well?
I believe there were flying cars, if I'm remembering correctly. Because he had updated... Yes, there were flying cars because he had updated the DeLorean to fly. Like the other cars of the time period.
Yeah.
Because then later in that movie, when he goes back to the past, he flies it down and parks it behind the billboard in the 1950s. Yeah. I have seen this movie too many times.
I love it too. It's like, roads? We don't need roads.
Right?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's... I couldn't remember if it was just the DeLorean that flew or if other cars were flying as well. That's what
I think it must have been other cars too, because otherwise there would have been no reason for him to add that to the DeLorean to fit in.
That's true. That makes
sense. I don't
sense.
specifically remember seeing other cars flying, but that's what makes the most sense to me.
I think it might have been bad CGI flying cars, if I remember.
Oh, I'm sure it was. We're
Absolutely.
talking about 1989. It was bad CGI flying cars.
Yeah. What else? I think there was. I don't think there was much else. Like you've already mentioned the diners, which haven't really moved on from the 60s because the 60s and 50s is still very quaint.
Yeah. We're not at a point where we've advanced so far into futuristic living that people are looking at the 80s and going, "Oh, I'm so nostalgic for that time frame."
But you know it's going to come.
Oh, I know.
We're in 2020 now. That's 40 years ago.
I know. Trust me, I'm aware. I was born in the 80s, so I'm very aware of the fact that we are fast approaching that.
I was born in the 90s.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not even early 90s
on.
either.
I know. Okay.
I'm a goober, but it's fine. Right. So yeah, Back to the Future. There were a couple of things that kind of exist, but were mainly made because the movie did it and not in like actual quantifiable numbers. So.
Right.
I'm going to say that Back to the Future Part 2, while very entertaining and a good movie, not super high on...
No. Not many successful predictions. Although it still does better than some of the other movies that are on the list.
Yes.
Yeah, in particular, the two of the ones I mentioned earlier that are bad movies, but I've seen them because, of course, I have. One is Barb Wire. It was released in 1996. For anyone who's a huge Pamela Anderson fan, you might actually enjoy this movie. I will say, like, it's not a great plot. If all you want to see is women being sort of scantily clad and fighting and shooting things and being like tough, then you might like it. It's based on a Dark Horse comic book of the same name, and Pamela Anderson played the title character. Whose full name is Barbara, hence Barb Wire. But
that's such a lazy pun. But
I know.
Yeah.
But it one of the things that it predicts, and it's supposed to be set in 2017, so that would have been 3 years ago.
Okay.
One of the things that it predicts is that there's a second American Civil War in 2017. I'm very happy to say that did not happen. Although
it might happen.
Yeah. It didn't. Let's rephrase this. It did not happen in an actual, like, people shooting each other up, war between the states kind of way. Did it happen in the political arena? Maybe.
I mean, you could argue.
You could argue that it did. You could argue that it did.
Just a tad. Just a tad.
Yeah.
I've actually just thought of another film. When was... Yeah. This one actually counts. It's not quite at the point of 2020. It's 2022. But I want to mention it because it certainly is weird. And that's The Purge.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm really glad that's not happening.
Yeah. I'm gonna go out on a limb and potentially say that in 2 years we're not going to make all crime legal for a day.
It seems unlikely.
Yeah. I was just curious because I knew it was set in the future, but I wasn't sure when it was set, so I went to the page. So it's 2022, but that's still closer than I'd like it to be.
Does the information say when, according to the plot of the movie, when the purge started?
Let's see.
Because I remember from the first movie, it's the only one I've seen out of them, because after that I was done. But from the first movie...
it actually says, in 2014, the new Founding Fathers of America, a totalitarian political party, are voted into office. They pass a law that sanctions the annual purge for 12 hours. So the actual purge was instated in 2014. The film takes place in 2022.
Interesting. And when was the film released?
2013.
Okay. So, I mean, it wasn't predicting that it was going to pass actually in 2014. But technically, it did make some predictions about the future.
In potentially 2022 that we might have a really big purchase.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, as an American, I will say that currently the political climate is such that depending on which side of the line you fall on, you may feel like things are as violent and insane as the purge.
Potentially. I'm looking at your face as you're saying all this, and it's so funny.
I'm trying to think of how to phrase things that don't... I don't want to call out one political group and say they're wrong or this person's wrong or anything like that, because even though I have my own personal beliefs that I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to start anything with anybody, even if I don't agree with someone else's political beliefs, it doesn't automatically mean they're a bad person. It doesn't automatically mean they're stupid or anything like that. But
am I allowed to say it because I'm not part of your country?
I mean,
no, I'm not going to say it.
We could talk about Brexit.
Yikes. There's actually a film about Brexit that predicted we would have left by now. Ironically.
Yeah, well, even when it passed, everyone knew it was going to take a few years because it wasn't designed to be a process that was going to happen instantly.
No.
Which I do think is something that a lot of people misunderstood.
Well, no. The problem was, and it would have been fine if we'd have spent the time making a plan before we hit the big let's leave button. And then having ourselves put on a timer. That was the mistake. After a lot of other mistakes, and that's as far as I'm going in that conversation. The fact is even if we wanted to leave, we should have planned how we were going to leave before we pressed the button.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And we're already at the halfway point. So, we are going to go into the first break of 2020 with both of us here.
Yeah.
So let's do that thing.
All
right. We will be back with a couple of the films, because there's at least one more I want to talk about, and I think you've got another one as well.
Yes, I have a bad 80s movie.
Ooh, nice. All right, so we will be back in a few minutes. See you in a bit, guys.
Welcome to the mid-roll, everyone.
Woo! We're doing the thing. We're doing it together. Man, these episodes are they're a lot more fun when we record them together.
Yes. I feel like there's a lot more laughter, if nothing else, because we actually get to talk to each other instead of just having to discuss something. Not that we don't love talking to all of you, but it's nice to actually have someone to have a conversation with.
I totally agree with that. So, first sponsor is World Anvil.
Yes, World Anvil is an amazing website. It's worldanvil.com. It's the most robust campaign management and world building software that exists anywhere online today. We know this because Logan, one of the other directors here at Nerdsmith, tested basically every single one that existed at one point in time. And this is definitely the best. You can basically turn it into a wiki for the world you're creating. It works well if you're a dungeon master and you want to flesh everything out and make all the connections. It works well if you're an author and you want to do the same thing for your story that you're creating and the world that you're creating. Your players can use it if you're a DM. If you're an author, you can share it with your readers, and then they can access all the information about the world you've created, even if you haven't gotten to put it into a book yet. So it's a fantastic website, worldanvil.com, and we definitely recommend you go check it out.
Yes, absolutely. The second sponsor of the Nursery Network is Die Hard Dice. Die Hard Dice work tirelessly to create beautiful polyhedral dice. I don't know why I call them polyhedral dice, they are, but they're also plastic and metal dice. That's what I was trying to say. They're gorgeous, they test all their colours in-house, they have so many designs that they have out now, they're still making more. They're absolutely gorgeous. They can sort things by class or by colour or by cost or material, so you can search the site in however way you want. They also have great accessories like their Scroll of Rolling, which I will keep talking about because it's amazing. It's D&D on the go. You can store 2 sets of dice into its sort of pouch, and it rolls up and then has like 2 little clasps, and basically just means you have a portable dice tray, and that's an amazing thing. So it's all good. It's amazing. If you go on their site and you have a look around and you find anything you like, you can use the code Geek Thyself to get 15%. That's 15 off your first or your next order. So, and you know, what kind of dice playing network would we be if we didn't have amazing dice to roll? You know, it's
This is true. If you want to roll with the best, you roll Die Hard Dice.
Yes, you do. All right. So, with all that, we'll get back into looking at films that are now in the past or in the future. That's a mouthful. We've got to work on a title. So, we'll see you all in a minute. Well, no, we'll see you all now. Okay, so, quick, much more fun, mid-roll, done. We'll talk about the next couple of films. So you said you had one more bad 80s movie that you wanted to talk about.
Yes. Well, I have a bad 80s movie, and then depending on where we're at with time, there's 1 or 2 others on this list that I've seen that I could talk about at least briefly.
Sure.
But this particular bad 80s movie is super bad. It's really bad.
All right. Let's have a listen.
It's, okay, so it's called Cherry 2000. That right there should tell you this is not going to be a good movie just from the name. So, in Cherry 2000, it was made in 1987, and it was predicting what the future was going to be like in 2017.
Sure.
Now, some of the predictions are that in 2017, the United States has fragmented into a lot of different post-apocalyptic wastelands. And there's also a shortage of women in particular, and or women are much more picky about who they're going to sleep with because there's fewer people around in general, so they're pickier about who they're going to sleep with and potentially have children with.
Basically making the best kind of potential offspring. Okay, that makes sense.
The response to this has been to create sex bots.
Oh boy.
Yes, I told you this was really bad. And Cherry 2000 is the model of a sex bot.
Oh, right.
So basically this movie predicts that there's wastelands that people are driving through in 2017. There's like fully human looking, can't tell the difference unless you like get them in water or pop open their little hatches to get to the wires, sex bots. And there's bars. Oh, that was one thing too. There's bars where people will go to socialize and hang out like we do now. But in order to find someone to go home with for the night, there are actual contracts.
No.
I'm not kidding you. There are lawyers in the bar
my God,
to help people figure out the contracts. So, like, if a man wants to pick up a woman, he has to go to her with a contract, and they have to agree that they're going to, have this type of foreplay and this type of intercourse and all of that. Like, it's a contract.
Right, okay. I don't like that for a couple of reasons. Why? Because consent is good, but once you're contracted into it, what happens if you don't want to do it?
There are consequences, but I don't remember what those are because
That's wrong.
I will clarify. I have only seen this movie one time. Didn't need to see it ever again.
You didn't do a repeat view?
No. It was one of those things where, like, some friends and I did a bad movie night, and someone read the caption of this one and was like, "This sounds awful. Yikes. This is perfect," and it was awful.
Yeah. I bet.
And the thing that kicks off the whole movie, and the reason you see the post-apocalyptic world and all the insanity beyond what I've already described, is that the main character, the male protagonist, decides to interact with his Cherry 2000 sex bot on the floor in soapy water that has started pouring out of the dishwasher, and she short circuits. And he's in love with his Cherry 2000. Oh, no. He basically treats her like his wife, which is not uncommon in the future, according to the movie.
Sure.
And so he decides to go searching for a new body that's the same model. He doesn't want a new model to put her chip into. He wants her memory chip to go into the same model. Oh, and Melanie Griffith plays the bounty hunter type person who takes him across the desert to find the new Cherry 2000 body.
Right.
I know, it just keeps getting better, right?
That's...
So, I'm just going to go out on a limb and, basically the entire movie predicts things that do not happen. I mean, there are people who are in relationships that involve contracts, but not in the way the movie portrays, not exactly in that way. And not at, bars.
Right. Yeah, I'm just going to assume that fully autonomous sex bots don't exist, because there is no way on this earth that I am putting that into Google.
Yeah, as far as I know, they don't. If they do, they're like the most secret things ever, because I've never heard of one.
I don't want to look.
Yeah, but I told you, it's a really bad 80s movie. It's really bad. Now, if you enjoy really bad 80s movies, go for it.
Great. Yeah. In the same kind of vein, but not entirely, there's iRobot, which has autonomous robots, assistants, workers being commonplace in 2020. Yes, the plot of the movie is that one goes rogue, I think, and basically tries to persuade the rest. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but...
Yeah, it's... I don't know about the original story. I haven't actually read the original story by Isaac Asimov, but I know in the Will Smith version that came out in 2004, they thought one had gone rogue, and then it turned out to be the system had gone rogue, and it was a whole thing.
Right, okay. So,
It was kind of Skynet-esque, like in Terminator, which is another example.
But when was Terminator set?
It depends on which part of Terminator.
Yeah. That's valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
Because I still believe they're very slightly in the future, I think.
Yeah, if you're talking about, like, when are the robots created, I think the origin of Skynet is set in the past at this point. But the, like, craziness that is Skynet that sends Schwarzenegger back is after 2020, I believe. I'm going to double check.
Sure. Which, just checking that. We don't have a Skynet yet.
No.
Yet.
Yeah. Yet is the operative word in that sentence. Terminator, the original Terminator, came out in 1984. And it was a cyborg assassin sent back in time from 2029. So I was right. It hasn't happened yet to 1984. I will say, though, as another good example, it's not impossible, but I feel like in the next 9 years, we are unlikely to go from where we're currently at with robots straight through to Terminator.
That's fair, but I would
it's
also...
not impossible, but it doesn't feel likely.
But what maybe feels more likely and a little bit more scary is perhaps we could have a Skynet then.
We could have some kind of Skynet AI type thing watching over stuff. That seems... it's hard to say.
But AI is coming a long way.
This is true.
I don't like the idea. I'm just saying could be closer than we perhaps think. Another one that I'm very briefly going to talk about, because it's not predicting the future so much, but it is in the future, is the Thunderbirds film that came out in 2004. Which, when I was 9-year-old, I loved it. It was great. But I don't know necessarily if we expected to have a group of people called International Rescue who have their own independent space station, rockets, and all these kind of things. But it's technically set in 2020, so perhaps it was predicting it, and unfortunately, ISS doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called? No. Is that what it's called?
For Thunderbirds? I'd have to look it up. I haven't seen it in so long.
I know they have FAB, but I can't remember what the initial on their badge was. Either way. So, that one is, not super predicting the future, I don't think, but it definitely is set in the future, or at least it was.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose we should finish with this one. We should finish with Blade Runner.
Oh.
Yeah. Because it's probably one of the most popular ones that people are aware of, especially with the other film coming out, right? 2017, I think it came out? 2029?
Yeah,
no, that seems...
the new one is pretty recent, but I don't remember the year.
Yeah. So yeah, which the film came out in 1982, but was set between 2016 and 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And it's set in a future where interstellar travel has been achieved, which, as far as I'm aware, we're not doing that yet.
Yeah.
And synthetic humans are employed as slave labour. Yeah. The film's not great. Not from that kind of perspective. I don't like the idea of anything being a slave, generally.
I agree.
So, but we don't have synthetic humans yet.
Nope.
We don't earn them as slaves. I can't really remember too much about the plot of Blade Runner, to be honest. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a really long time either.
Yeah.
So that's one I'm not as familiar with. But that is a popular one that is a really good example, again, of, this movie was released in 1982 and it's predicting something that's over 40 years in the future. And it got a lot wrong. But
it did.
That's kind of what happens all the time. Even now, movies that we're releasing now here in 2020 are going to be predicting the future and getting a lot of things wrong. And that's just the way it is.
I'd imagine so. Yeah, the sequel did come out in 2017, but that's set in 2049, so... But yeah, the apparently, replicants are humans that are bioengineered, and there are people actually designated to take these things out. It's very much a post-apocalyptic dystopian future, which we're not there. We might be close on the dystopia bit, no. No, that's just me taking a jab at politics. I don't necessarily believe that.
Yeah, it's a can of worms we don't want to open.
No, it's not. And we've came close a couple of times already. But I think because we're already now slightly over, we should perhaps wrap up this sort of thing. If you have any other films that you specifically know about that are different, feel free to chat with us in the Nerdsmet Discord. We're normally easy enough to reach there. You can just tag us and we'll be summoned through the arcane portals. I don't know how it works. It's like when you say Beetlejuice 3 times and Beetlejuice comes up. Oh, I've said it twice, I've got to be careful. So, just, it kind of works like that. It's not really...
Except you only have to do it once.
Yeah. Although, if we're sleeping, you sometimes might have to do it more than that.
Well, we have different time zones, though, so probably one of us would answer. You just have to make sure you at both of us.
That's exactly right. So feel free to get in contact with us there. There's also a Twitter, Geek_Thyself, if you want to message there, if that's where you prefer to do all your conversing with people. Apart from that, we will see you all very soon with the next episode. Hopefully, again, with both of us. Hopefully, we'll keep that sort of train going now.
That's what we're planning. Fingers crossed.
Well... unless the scheduling gods just choose to completely mess us up again. But it's fine. Either way, until then, we will see you very soon. Have a fantastic week, day, decade, month, whatever.
That's right. And we'll talk to you all next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
We both just waved for no reason.
We both literally just waved to no one.
To ourselves.
Right, that's staying in. Yeah, that's staying in. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Geek Thyself. Don't forget to check out all the other amazing content on the Nerdsmith Network. If you have any questions for either of us, you can get in contact with us on Twitter at geek_thyself.
You can also email us at geekthyself@nerdsmith.org. And please don't forget to go to iTunes and leave us a review, or also go anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
We'll be back next week with another informative and fun episode.
And until then, don't forget to geek thyself.